Lex Friedman was interviewing Elon Musk, and he was asking Musk about the 2020 launch of his SpaceX program with the first human beings inside. And I'm going to read this because I want to get the quotation just right here to set this up. Musk says, "We racked our brains to improve any possibility of improving the probability of success, and we could not think of anything more, and nor could NASA. That's just the best that we could do, and we went ahead and launched." Now, that's a very scientific engineering approach to the issue. There was nothing else that we could have done. But here's the part that I want to get your reaction to here. Elon continues and says, "Now, I'm not a religious person, but I nonetheless got on my knees and prayed for that mission." If you know Elon, and I've seen enough interviews with him, he has quite a sense of humor. He can be a kind of a trickster, almost a Loki kind of figure at times, but he was dead serious about that. What's your reaction to hearing something like that coming from Elon Musk?
Well, I don't know enough of Elon Musk, and I've kind of learned to be, until somebody tells me their motives or what they're thinking, I try not to assess too much, just because I know people will read what I do and miss my motives a lot. But what I see in Musk's description and response there is a recognition when you're dealing with traveling in space, it is a dangerous mission or dangerous circumstance, no matter how you slice it. There's an aspect to where living here on Earth, I wonder if we've been lulled into a sense that things are safe and easy to do. And because everything about life here on Earth, everything about Earth seems to be towards life thriving, if you will. I mean, even when you talk about the hurricanes and the earthquakes, I mean, living on Earth is just easy in a very real sense. And so now when we're talking about going out into space, you begin to encounter all of the ways that you can just perish in an instant. I mean, you run into, moving at high speeds, you run into a small piece of debris, it just rips your ship apart, all the oxygen or all the air vents out into space, and you die. You run out of fuel. There's no way to get back. Traveling out to Mars, you make a little bit of a miscalculation and you miss it. How do you get back? I mean, you're faced with very real, very present obstacles that could very quickly lead to your death. And it doesn't surprise me that somebody steps back and say, wait a second, we can't control this. At the very minimum, I hope there's somebody out there who can. And, that's part of what is a great encouragement for me as a Christian, is that it isn't just a random shot. Oh, I hope it works. It's like, I do know that there's somebody out there who's in control of all this, who's bigger and knows more. And even if it's dangerous, knows how to do things wisely and can take care of me one way or the other.
Yeah, like you, I don't want to proclaim anything about what Elon Musk believes or doesn't believe. What I took away from that moment, though, was such a profound human moment, in the sense that I believe him when he says, we reached the limit to what we could do as human beings. For that moment, we thought of everything we possibly could. But what's the one thing that we didn't recognize or couldn't recognize in the moment, or actually I should say, what's the one thing and he did recognize was the limitations. Is there more out there? And if so, the human being, maybe I'm not equipped to handle that. And so what's the one thing that I can do is say a prayer and acknowledge that there are things that are out of my control. And I just found that to be such a beautiful moment in time, because, he makes it very clear he's not religious, but that recognition to me just seemed so beautiful in that moment to hear that.
I would agree. And I think that's, if, a little bit, Jeff's Waring just speculating here, but I wonder if a danger that we face in our society is that we've come to a place where we think we can control things, and we fail to realize that there are lots of things that are beyond our control. And in some sense, trying to live within what we can control, we miss the bigger picture of what could be and what we can explore by being out there. I mean, the whole space program from its inception, it was an ambitious program, but one littered with a lot of danger. And I mean, you can be careful, but there's only so much you can control, especially when you're working out in a dangerous environment. And, I mean, throughout the space program, there have been some pretty serious problems that are the result of just dealing with a very, very challenging environment that you're dealing with there.
Yeah, and I think the acceptance of a religion comes with the acceptance that there are things outside of your control. And I know for me personally, there's a very calming feeling actually in that. You hear people all the time today talk about increases in anxiety. And a lot of times that increase in anxiety can boil down to this feeling that you're not in control of everything. But for someone who has a faith to turn to, not saying that people who are or Christians or who hold a belief can't have anxiety. Of course, anybody can. But the idea that that's baked into it, that you have to admit there are things that are just simply outside of my control and are in the hands of someone else, and I have to accept that, seems to bring a great calmness. And I wonder if that moment when Elon says that, if in some way that brought him a calmness, certainly a calmness enough to be able to say that on a podcast that was going to go out to millions of people. I just found that to be, again, just a beautiful moment.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty profound point that you're making there, Joe. Just as I look at Christianity, you look at the various things that happen throughout Scripture, and it's almost like in every single instance, God's saying, "Hey, do this. It's bigger than what you know. Trust me, I've got it taken care of." That I love to have things under control. It makes me very comfortable, but. If nothing else, this last couple of years has shown that even in the best of circumstances, there are things that are going to happen outside my control. And if I am relying on being in control and knowing everything, I am going to be disappointed and anxious and frustrated and. One of the great things that has been a steady source of strength for me is just recognizing that I may not know what's going on here, but regardless of what's going on, the history of Christianity illustrated throughout Scripture has shown is that whether times are good or bad, Christianity is a robust life that you can live with joy and hope and purpose, regardless of whether things are going well or things are going awfully or things are unknown or things are well known. And so it's been a great source of strength and resolve for myself and my family. So I think that's a pretty profound point, and one that we're going to increasingly counter, especially in today's society.